I've been thinking about something lately. I wonder how many of us are carrying conversations that never actually happened. Not because they were not important, but because we never spoke them. Think about the last time somebody asked, "How are you?" and you smiled. "I'm fine." Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were exhausted. Maybe you were hurt. Maybe you were lonely. Maybe you simply didn't have the energy to explain. So you smiled, and the conversation moved on. But did it really? Or did it continue inside you? I sometimes wonder if the heaviest conversations in our lives are not the ones that we had, they are the ones we never did. The apology we never asked for, the boundary we never expressed, the grief we never allowed ourselves to feel, the dream we never admitted that we wanted, the love we never confessed, the no we never spoke, the yes we were so afraid to say. Life moves on, people move on, but something inside of us doesn't. For a long time, I thought communication was simply about speaking clearly, choosing the right words, learning to express yourself. But after years of studying yoga and years of listening to people, I don't think that's what expression really is. I think expression is much deeper than the language. Expression is the moment when your inner experience and your outer life finally begin telling the same story. And maybe that is why so many of us feel tired, not because we are doing too much, but because we are constantly managing the distance between what we truly feel and what we allow the world to see. Have you ever noticed how much energy it takes to say it's okay when it wasn't, to smile when your heart is breaking, to agree when every part of your body is saying no? We think we are protecting the relationship, but quietly we are disconnecting from ourselves and in turn disconnecting from the person in front of us as well. One of the ideas that has stayed with me throughout the years of studying yoga is the practice of satya. It's often translated as truthfulness, but I don't think satya simply means don't lie. That feels too small. To me, satya is an invitation to reduce the distance between what is true inside of you and how you choose to live. Think about that. Not perfect honesty, not brutal honesty, but a life where your body, your words, and your actions begin moving in the same direction. Because every time that they don't, something interesting happens. The mind says everything is okay, the mouth says I'm fine, and the body tightens its jaw, shortens its breath, clenches its stomach, raises its shoulders, and it's almost as if body quietly says, if you don't tell the truth, I'll carry it for you. Now, I want to be very careful here. I'm not saying every physical symptom comes from an emotion. Life is much more complex than that. Bodies get sick, bodies get injured, bodies change. That's part of being human. But I'm saying something different. I think many of us know what it feels like when we have been carrying something emotionally for a very long time. You can feel it not as a diagnosis, as an experience. A tightness in your throat before a difficult conversation, a heaviness in your chest after holding back tears, a knot in your stomach when you are about to say yes when you really mean no. Most of us have lived those moments. We just haven't been taught to listen to them. And that's where I think modern neuroscience beautifully meets ancient yoga. Science now tells us that long before we consciously choose our words, our nervous system has already begun responding. Your breathing changes, the muscles around your eyes change, your facial expression changes. Those are called subliminal expressions. The tone of your voice changes. Your body isn't waiting for permission from your thinking mind. It's already preparing you for connection or protection. Thousands of years ago, yoga was observing the same human experience, not with brain scans, but through direct observation, watching the breath, watching the body, watching awareness itself. Different language, the same human being. Sometimes I think our body is not asking us to become more confident, It's asking us to become more honest, not louder, more honest. Because confidence without honesty still feels disconnected. Fake it till you make it, we've all heard it. But honesty, even when your voice trembles, has a very different quality. It feels alive, and maybe that's because truth has always carried life with it. There is something else that I've been reflecting on. Have you ever noticed that when you don't feel safe, your voice changes? It becomes quieter. Sometimes it becomes higher. Sometimes you speak very quickly. Sometimes you don't speak at all. It's fascinating. We often think finding our voice is a psychological problem. I don't think it is. I think it's physiological. When your body, your nervous system senses danger, whether the danger is real or simply familiar, the first priority is not self expression, it's self protection. Think about it. You're going in a forest and a lion comes in front. Will you tell the lion, get down, the way you command a dog? No, you will try to run in the opposite direction. Modern neuroscience calls this a survival response. Your nervous system is constantly asking one question: am I safe enough to stay connected? Not, am I right? Not, will they understand me? Simply, am I safe? And if the answer is no, your body begins protecting you long before your conscious mind realizes what's happening. Your breath becomes shorter, your shoulders lift, your throat tightens, your facial expressions change. Even your voice changes, not because you're weak, because your body loves you enough to try and protect you. One of the remarkable things about vagus nerve, the longest nerve in our body, is that it connects many of the very places where we experience emotion: our breath, our heart, our face, our voice, connection itself. It's almost as though the body is saying, if I don't feel safe, I cannot fully express myself. And suddenly, so many experiences begin to make sense. Why it's easier to speak honestly with one friend than in a room full of strangers. Why your voice disappears during conflict. Why you rehearse conversations in your head, but struggle to say the words when the moment finally arrives. It is not lack of intelligence. It isn't lack of confidence, even. Your nervous system is just trying to protect belonging. Yoga has been pointing towards this for thousands of years. One of the ideas that has stayed with me is asmita. It is often translated as the mistaken identification with the self. Again, I don't think we need complicated language. Think about what happens after one difficult conversation. Someone says, you are selfish. That's one opinion, one moment. But slowly, that experience becomes, maybe I'm selfish. Someone rejects you, and suddenly, maybe I'm not lovable. Do you see what happened? An experience became an identity. And once something becomes identity, we stop expressing ourselves freely because now we are no longer protecting an opinion. We are protecting who we think we are. I think this is where so many of us are trapped, not by life, by the stories we inherited, the stories we repeated, the stories that we never questioned. I'm too much. I'm too sensitive. I always disappoint people. I'm difficult. I should stay quiet. Those are not facts. They are often unfinished experiences that slowly become identity. And every identity asks something from the body. If I believe that I'm too much, my body learns to become smaller. If I believe that my needs don't matter, my body learns to stay silent. If I believe conflict is dangerous, my breath changes every single time somebody disagrees with me. Can you see how beautifully connected this is? Your body is not creating the story. Your body is adapting to the story that your mind is creating. And then something extraordinary happens. One day, somebody truly wants to know you. Someone asks, what do you really want? And you don't know. Not because the answer isn't there, because you have spent many years asking a different question. What will keep everybody else comfortable? Think about this. You are going out on a family dinner, and suddenly you are asked, what do you want? And you don't have an answer. I'll have what everybody else is having. Sounds familiar? I think that's one of the greatest costs of self silencing. It doesn't only hide your truth from other people, eventually, it hides your truth from you. This is why I don't think finding your voice begins with speaking. It begins with listening, listening to your breath, listening to your body, listening to the subtle moments. When something inside you says, that doesn't feel true, or this matters, or please don't ignore me again. Your body speaks in sensations long before your voice finds words. And perhaps learning to hear those sensations is the beginning of finding your voice. There is a beautiful reason why so many yogic practices involve sound. Not because sound is magical, but because vibration changes us. Think about humming, think about chanting, think about the long exhalation of Om. Whether you see it as spiritual or physiological, something shifts. The breath slows, the throat softens, the chest opens, the body receives a new message. Maybe it's safe enough to stay present. And I think that's the real purpose, not performing a ritual, but reminding the body that expression can change without danger. So perhaps the question isn't how do I become more confident? Maybe the question is much simpler. How do I become more congruent? How do I become somebody whose body, whose voice, and whose life is telling the same story? Because I don't think confidence is the destination. I've met many confident people who were deeply disconnected from themselves. They could speak beautifully, they could lead meetings, they could inspire thousands, and yet, when you ask them a simple question, what do you really want? There was silence. Not because they lacked words, because somewhere along the way they had stopped listening. Yoga has never fascinated me because it promises flexibility or perfect postures or even peace. What has fascinated me for more than 14 years is that yoga keeps inviting us back to one relationship, the relationship with ourselves. Every practice, whether it's asana, pranayama, meditation, or self inquiry, is asking the same quiet question. Can you stay present with what is true? Not what is comfortable, not what is expected, what is true. And I've come to believe that truth isn't something we create, truth is something we uncover. It's already there, the body already knows. Have you noticed your body often knows before your mind catches up? You walk into a room and something doesn't feel right. You meet someone and your body softens. You're about to say yes and your stomach tightens. You finish a conversation and your shoulders suddenly relax. The body is constantly gathering information that the thinking mind hasn't yet translated. Maybe intuition isn't mysterious after all. Maybe it's simply the body noticing before the mind explains. So perhaps instead of asking, how do I find my voice? We begin asking, what has been my body trying to say all along? Because once you hear that, your words begin to change naturally. Not because you've learned better communication, but because you've become more connected. I would love to leave you with a simple practice, not because practices solve everything, but because they help us listening again. The next time you find yourself in a difficult conversation or just before one, pause. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your throat and take a slow breath in and even a slower breath out. Then ask yourself three questions. What am I feeling? Don't analyze it, just notice. What am I needing? Not what the other person needs, not what they expect. What do you need in this moment? Maybe it's clarity, maybe it's space, maybe it's reassurance, maybe it's simply a little more time. And finally, if I trusted my body completely, what truth is asking to be spoken? Not all of it, just the next honest sentence. Sometimes that's I'm hurt, or I need a moment, or no, or I don't know. That too is truth. One swallowed boundary, one unspoken need, one hidden fear, one quiet compromise, until eventually we don't know where our voice went. But here's the beautiful part. If we lost it one sentence at a time, Perhaps we find it the same way. One honest sentence today, another tomorrow, another the day after. I don't think this work is about becoming louder. The loudest voice in the room isn't always the truest. Sometimes the truest voice is soft, steady, clear, without needing to convince anyone, because truth has a different quality. It doesn't shout, it resonates. And maybe that's what body voice has been trying to explore all along. The body is not a problem to fix. The voice is not a performance to master. The body is where the truth is first experienced. The voice is where the truth becomes relationship. And when these two start working together, life changes. Not because life becomes easier, but because you no longer spend your energy being divided inside yourself. I think that's what freedom feels like, not the absence of fear or the absence of conflict or the absence of pain. Freedom is waking up one day and realizing there is no longer a war between what your body knows and what your heart feels and what your voice is willing to say. That is congruence, that is integrity, and perhaps that is yoga. So before we end, I would like to leave you with just one question. What conversation is still living inside your body because your voice has never been given permission to finish it? Don't rush to answer. Sit with it, walk with it, listen. Your body has been patiently carrying that conversation for a very long time. Maybe today it no longer has to carry it alone. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to know what stayed with you. Leave a comment below, like this video, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this today. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel. When you leave a comment, I get a chance to read every one of them, and many of these conversations start with your questions. If you would like to explore this work more deeply, I would love to invite you to my live masterclass where we explore emotional capacity, the relationship between the body and the voice, and what it means to build a life that is deeply congruent and fully lived. And if you're looking to work one on one with me, the link is there in the description below. Also, you can connect with me on Instagram. The handle is the same, Shape Spice, SHAPESPICE. And on Spotify, we are Limitless Lounge. Until next time, take care of your body, trust your voice, and remember, your voice doesn't become powerful when it becomes louder. Your voice becomes powerful when it finally learns the truth that your body has known all along. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.